Good afternoon and welcome to Building Boston and Beyond. I am your host, Lydia Rivera. We are underway with this unique program to showcase the many projects and programs underway in and around Boston and the organizations, leaders, and advocacy groups working on them. As we know, it is critically important to engage community participation through inclusion and transparency, which is accomplished through open dialogue and sharing of information. Providing residents with information on the growth of their community, including new businesses, construction projects, improvements to local parks, and public transportation builds trust. But as we know, promoting community activism requires commitment and dedication to engage fellow residents, the public, to be part and care about the growth of their community. With us today is an individual with this commitment and dedication, the drive to building community and promoting long-term investments that ultimately improve the quality of life for Boston residents. City Councillor at Large Michelle Wu is with us today. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
I really appreciate it. I think you're great. As we were talking earlier, you're really out there just taking on various projects and trying to make, again, as I stated, the quality of life for local residents.
There's a lot to do in Boston.
Don't you think? And improve. You know, I just want to share with our residents. I've obviously just met you a few days ago, but I followed you. I just want to share with our viewers your background, where'd you grow up, where'd you matriculate?
Sure. I am a South End resident, live there with my husband, my sister, and my new son, who's 5 months old. I first came to Boston for college, came in undergrad now over almost a dozen years ago now. Knew that I wanted to stay in Boston at that point. I grew up in Chicago. My parents had immigrated from Taiwan, and when I had the chance to come out to Boston, decided I was going to make this my home. In between, I had to go back to Chicago for a little bit when my mom got sick, had some family matters to take care of, and started taking care of my family. But now brought everyone back here with me, so I've moved my family out here with me, and we just love it. Boston has given us every opportunity.
That's wonderful. And why politics? I mean, you were a lawyer, correct?
Yes, and you know, growing up, I had never thought this would be something I would consider. It really was the experience of taking care of my family and starting to interact with government, especially city government, in a lot of different ways that, let's just say, weren't always pleasant, that I decided that I wanted to make a difference and wanted to try to clear away some of these barriers for other families.
Well, you have a unique quality. You are like a public servant and politician, but you're an activist as well. And that's what I think differentiates you from other people, because you have this like passion for change.
I think once you've gone through that sort of struggle, and I know a lot of my colleagues have similar experiences where you've seen what it's like, you know how hard it is, you know, and then on the flip side, you know what good government can do if you just kind of get to the people who need help and who need access to those services. So I see my job as sort of twofold. One, every day doing the nitty-gritty and meeting with constituents and helping individual people get the help that they need, being that first line of defense, and then kind of looking big picture too, seeing what are the big policies that we need to change and make better so that overall people hopefully won't even need to come knocking on our door in City Hall. They can just take care of themselves and get the help that their family needs.
No, you're right. You have a vision and focus on goals, which is important. So let's talk about like what you've been up to. You have priorities. You have obviously education is important to you.
Yeah.
The streamlining of the permitting processes for businesses. Let's like expand on that.
Yeah, sure. So because I never really necessarily planned on doing this, a lot of my focus is on experiences that my family's had and that I see other families going through in Boston. So I came in saying I really want to make a difference for small business owners in Boston. When I had run my family business, it was one hoop after another to jump through to get through a permitting and licensing process. And I wanted to make sure that in Boston, it's a little easier. It's been great working with Mayor Walsh and his administration, and we've now gotten to the point where almost all the permits are online. You can check your status, you can submit documents, so it's really easier for the local business owners to get their businesses up and running, bring jobs to the neighborhood. I've also very recently been working on issues that relate to working parents. So as I was pregnant and going around the city, I was hearing a lot about how tough it is for families to balance that work and family. So we were really thrilled that this past Monday, a week ago, a week and a couple days ago now, Mayor Walsh signed into law the Boston Paid Parental Leave Ordinance.
This is huge. This is huge. And we have to thank you for that. You really, really.
It was a lot of people on the team, and from day one, it was all about how can we get this done. You know, there's still a lot more to go in terms of expanding it and making sure that every family in Boston has access to it. But it's great that Boston's now one of the few cities that really says we value working parents, and we're going to make sure to give you that paid time off after the new baby comes to spend with your family.
Exactly. So what are the benefits of that?
So it's 6 weeks paid for city employees. Currently, it's just employees that aren't covered by a collective bargaining agreement. So the plan is to expand it as more contracts come up for negotiation. But it applies to both men and women. So moms and dads get to take time off, and we want to be as inclusive as possible. So it's around birth, it's around adoption, it's around stillbirth, same-sex couples. If mom and dad both work for the city, they get separate leave periods that they could take together or one after the other. So we wanted to make sure that we are valuing parents in whatever form the family takes, and really helping them balance that very hard juggling act.
That's great. And you obviously document the use of that and how many employees are taking advantage of it. And, and you promote it.
Exactly. And track what the long-term costs and benefits are.
Right.
Megan Costello, who is the mayor's, the head of the Office of Women's Advancement, is tracking all of the things like productivity and decreased turnover and fewer sick days that some other cities and states have said they've noticed with this policy, so that in the long run it can actually save taxpayer dollars.
That's excellent public information. Like thinking back on what I used to do as like a spokesperson, that's stuff like I would definitely promote to share with the public, because that's good news.
Yeah.
That's when you talk about turnover rates and sick time and people that are not sick but they have to stay home because their child's sick.
Exactly. And it costs more in the long run if you have employees who have to leave the job and therefore you have to train a new person, bring them on board, get them up to speed. If we just give them that time right after the baby comes, people come back to work refreshed. They are eager to be city employees, and it's better for everyone overall.
And it affects morale.
Absolutely.
It so does.
Absolutely.
I mean, I spent a career at the MBTA, and I don't have children, but I obviously worked with people that did, and it does affect morale when they're like, oh, I don't want to call in sick, my child's sick, or I've been out a week.
Yeah.
And work is piling up on my desk, and how do you combat that?
Yeah, exactly.
You know? So that's one thing. And the other one, innovation.
Yeah, absolutely. We in Boston are sitting right at the hub of so many resources, and one of those big sets of sort of our competitive advantage is around tech and innovation and all the incredible talent we have here. And again, there's been a real commitment to it with this administration around lots of hackathons and other ways to invite people in and say, here are the issues that Boston's going through, help us think of new solutions. So we've had interesting partnerships like Acoustic on Main, where the city waived the permit for live entertainment so that small businesses could host live music for a period of time. We've had new advances in Wi-Fi in the parks and apps and other ways for residents to connect and really get involved in the city.
That's great, because I think those ideas bring in the youth, but also too allow you to even educate seniors and older people that are afraid of innovation or technology.
Yeah, I've found that the City Citizens Connect app, which you can download right on your smartphone and report potholes and cracks in the street or other things the city should take care of, that it's just as effective for young people as it is for seniors.
Right.
And so every group that I go to, I try to walk everyone through how to get the app, how to use it, and people love it. It's nice that they can do it right at their fingertips.
I think that's really, really cool. And then education.
Yeah.
So education is really one of your focuses and passion.
It's really what opened so many doors for myself and my siblings to be able to experience public education and take advantage of that set of tools that gives you. And now that I'm a new mom also and have been a legal guardian for my little sister, I've seen how hard it is for parents. And it's big decisions, it's a lot of choices out there, and we need to make sure that in Boston we are providing the whole range of quality options for families.
Don't you think, because you always hear about people saying, well, once my child, in the past, and I think in my generation, once my child hits 6 years old, I think we're going to go to suburbs because of the education level available here in Boston. And I'm always like, why? We have all these schools and on corners and in different parishes and neighborhoods that we could utilize. So you need people like yourself to advocate for that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And there are some great options throughout the Boston Public Schools in our district. part of it is that we need to make sure people know about them and know the places that schools are doing really well and the teams are working great and parents are really happy. And then overall, we need to make sure that every school gets there. And with a new superintendent coming in, with some big investments in this year's school budget, I think there's a huge opportunity to really speed up that pace of progress.
Oh yeah, definitely. Now back to like when you talked about helping businesses, do you actually still like see a business come from the ground up as you help them with the permitting? So that must be exciting.
Yeah, definitely.
Because you were your own entrepreneur.
Yes.
Back in Chicago.
Yep, there's nothing like that experience of really having a vision, laying it out, and then putting together all the pieces for your business, because you're really creating a whole experience for people. Even if you're a restaurant, it's really not just about the food that you're serving, it's the atmosphere and it's the music that you choose, the paint for the walls. And so I've been really lucky to see lots of businesses start in Boston, but also expand and grow. There's some food truck businesses that started with just one truck and now have multiple restaurants and multiple trucks and commissary kitchens.
Because I'm sure they were struggling just trying to start their business with the processes.
The process can be very complicated, and we need to make sure that people know to reach out to the city ahead of time, because if you start it with the right mindset and knowing all the steps you have to go through, it's much easier than kind of jumping in and then getting tripped up and then having to go back and fix things. So we want to obviously make the system as easy as possible. So ideally you don't have to reach out to the city or get a lawyer or a consultant or anything. You can just do it yourself. But as we are fixing it, as we're streamlining it, the message is reach out early if you're thinking about getting started, and we'll help you, guide you through the process as we're working to fix it.
Awesome. All right, so we're going to take a break, and we'll come back with more from Michelle Wu.
Son, tell him that I've begun to dream of things to come, and tell the trees not to look for me. I'm going to find some peace of mind. Wake the sun. Wake the sun, wake the sun, wake the sun.
Welcome back to Building Boston and Beyond. I am your host, Lydia Rivera. I'm with Michelle Wu, City Councillor at Large, and we're talking about what's going on in her office over the past few months and what she's been concentrating on, her priorities. And we are going to talk a few minutes about the Olympics. And let's just talk about how you feel that's moving forward, and what's your opinion on the Olympics.
It's been a topic of interest throughout the city. We get questions on it from residents from every single neighborhood, because it is something that, should Boston keep going down this path in 2024, it will have a huge impact for the entire city and for many years afterwards too. I am happy that the City Council has created a special committee. So there is a committee to specifically study the 2024 Olympics, the bid, the whole process. We've had 2 hearings so far and more scheduled to come. My position is that I'm open to the possibility that it could be great for Boston. However, the burden of proof has to be on the proponents to prove that it will be different from every other city that's hosted it, because other cities' experiences haven't been great. And it's about cost overruns and displacement and small businesses suffering during the period that the Olympics are here. So I think there's room for the smart people and talent in Boston to put together something that's very creative and innovative, but we need to see the details in writing, and we're not quite there yet.
Right, because I think your average citizen, your average resident feels like, okay, it sounds great, but will we incur the cost at the end? And we're talking about, will this turn into a tax after after the Olympics. So that's definitely worrisome.
Yeah, the proponents have said so far that they are hoping for and planning for no taxpayer money to be involved. My big question is whether the financial guarantee that's required to bid for the Olympics will be a private guarantee or a public one. We heard from the International Olympic Committee at the last City Council hearing that they are open to a private entity being on the hook for the dollars instead of city government or state government. So again, it comes down to the actual legal language and where we see that happening.
And you understand that too, because you're a lawyer, so
Yeah,
you can understand that. You can understand that whole process. Exactly. All right, so that would be somewhat of a guarantee if that was written that way, where it's a private funding operation.
Yep.
So that would alleviate the stress of a resident thinking that.
I think that's probably one of the biggest questions that I hear from residents is who's going to pay for this, and above and beyond that, there are other questions too of inclusion and who will benefit from the Olympics and who may not benefit from the Olympics. So again, there's huge opportunity. It would be 9 years of potential construction and new venues being built and new neighborhoods potentially being created. So we just need to be very deliberate and transparent about what's going to happen.
Well, I mean, while people may fear it, then you think about, as you said, just the positive aspects of it. I mean, it does. I do feel like it's going to generate businesses, creation of new businesses, enhancements to small businesses, and as you said, neighborhood development and things like that.
Well, there's certainly a lot of issues that the proponents are saying could be helped by an Olympics, and even looking in this past winter at transportation, there's huge need for infrastructure investment up and down all different levels and all throughout the state. So that's something that's being promised as a benefit for the games. I question whether we can get to the same outcome just completely separately, and we need to make sure that we're not just doing the Olympics in order to get transportation improvements, right? We could do, if we really just wanted transportation improvements, we could do that. So there has to be something really tangible, some extra benefit that comes out of hosting.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I think that, I mean, obviously we have a number of years to figure that out, but I think in 2017, that's when they make the decision.
Yep. So I believe it's later in this year, I think September of, actually I think it's September of 2016, sometime in the next year and a half, the United States Olympic Committee officially designates which city will bid, and then the bid is submitted, and then it's not until September 2017 that the host city is selected for 2024.
Now in City Hall, do you sit on various committees other than what you do yourself to advocate and help people?
Well, it's an interesting structure in that at the City Council, there are 13 of us, and each person chairs some number of committees. But everyone is technically a member of every committee. There are designated voting members, but everybody is encouraged to participate and attend any hearings. And at the end of the day, any major votes are taken by the council as a whole, so everybody has the same vote there.
Well, that makes sense.
Yes.
I think, because your constituents may have an interest in something.
Yeah, exactly.
Individually, and you want to be like, oh, that's Councillor so-and-so, then you can speak.
Right, yeah, so I chair the committees on arts and culture and on small business entrepreneurship and innovation, and then try to sit in on any number of other hearings that are happening.
Now, arts and culture, isn't there a new director that came in with arts and culture?
Yeah, there's a lot going on in Boston and on that front.
Right.
Julie Burrows, someone that we lured from Chicago.
I was just going to say, isn't she from Chicago? I think a lot of people from Chicago. Not saying anything, but.
Oh, the Boston's the big draw. There's a lot going on here.
I think Chicago and Boston are similar.
They're both cities of neighborhoods, and I think that sort of translates that commitment to really keeping strong neighborhoods and strong local infrastructure. But Chief Julie Burrows, who's the first arts and culture chief in the city's history, is launching a citywide cultural planning process. So this will be mapping out every resource and then figuring out how we better support what's already happening.
Yeah, I met her at an event because I'm working on a committee where we're putting women in transportation art into South Station.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so it's going to be privately funded. We're just trying to raise money to do that. But she's been very helpful with us for that.
Yeah, she's been very committed to community engagement and I remember when she was first announced, every organization in Boston, it seemed, reached out over Twitter and said, come visit us, come see us. So she has a lot on her plate because there's so much great stuff happening in Boston around that.
Exactly. So we're ready to wrap up. I just want to ask you quickly, what else are you working on, like for maybe the fall or in the summer?
Yeah, sure.
Any other?
There's a bunch on the plate. So let's see, trying to push forward with some of the, continuing the small business streamlining and permitting and licensing and all that. Really want to focus on daycare, early education and childcare. It's sort of the next big barrier that a lot of working parents face. Mental health is another area that's near and dear to my heart that I want to see some advances on at the city level. And yeah, it's just a time where there's a lot of new ideas. I would say most of all, most important is making sure that people know what's happening in City Hall. So every week after our council meeting, I type up my notes of what happened just in plain English, very short summaries, and post them on Facebook, email them out. So if anyone's interested, they're at michelleforboston.com/notes, and you can see everything that's happening at the City
I'm going to go to that, definitely.
Check them out.
Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
So basically, thank you, our viewers, for joining us today on Building Boston and Beyond. Tune in monthly to get an update on what's going on in the community and beyond.